Well, the reason why I read to you in particular the tract, which is Psalm 90, is we had the Holy League Men's Conference yesterday here, a packed house, which was good to see, and a few men from the parish came, which was good to see. Would have been good to see more, but nevertheless, we had a good outreach to the men of the city and to the region. And we had an exorcist priest here, Father Dan Rehill, who, by the way, was the first to celebrate Mass at our new side altar. And he was mentioning how the importance of this Psalm 90 in the tract, and that we have the entire Psalm in the tract, the chant between the Epistle and the Gospel today. And it's notable because our Lord is spending 40 days in the desert, and then he's tempted by the devil. Now, this particular psalm is the only psalm that is required to be said in the solemn rite of exorcism. There are other psalms that may be said, but this psalm must be said in that rite. Or so Father was mentioning this. And so it's interesting that as we are fasting and praying with the Lord during this Lent, you might have temptations to give up on your Lenten disciplines. You might have temptations to just throw in the towel and say, oh, I can't fast anymore. Boy, I sure want a hamburger on Friday. I'm going to go hang out with my Protestant friends and neighbors and eat a hamburger on Friday. You might be tempted to do that. And you need the armor of God, which is prayer. Now, fasting is the armor of God as well. But sometimes you need prayer in order to help you to fast. And the just ordinary things that God provides for us in the liturgy, for instance. And the very fact that this tract is not just being recited as it is at the low masses today, but that it's being sung solemnly. And that it takes 15 to 18 minutes to sing through this tract. That is sanctifying this church building. It is sanctifying all of those who are here listening to it and praying along. We have these various prayers and exorcisms through the liturgical year. We had the solemn blessing of the water at Epiphany, used to bless all the property and taken to the homes of the faithful. And that's protection. And then we have this protection today being chanted in our presence. And so these are important things that we experience, but they're just so ordinary for us. When we don't realize how much protection we have. Just praying the Apostles' Creed, just praying our Father, the words of our Lord Jesus Christ himself, just praying the Hail Mary, praying Psalm 90, praying the prologue to the Gospel of St. John, which we have as the last Gospel here. Those things are very powerful. And yet they're just normal things for us. We take them for granted. But you see, what we learn from that is if you keep a regular prayer life, you're protected, you're strengthened, and you don't even realize it. Now, if you are battling certain temptations, and worse temptations than just not keeping your Lenten practices, if you're battling worse temptations, are you turning to prayer? Praying the Rosary. Surprisingly powerful. Praying the Rosary. The Apostles' Creed, the Our Father, and the Hail Mary, and the Glory Be. But also picking up the Psalms. The priests were required to pray the Psalms several times throughout the day, every day through the week, every day of the year. And that's our protection. And these vestments are like a suit of armor. They're our protection. And obedience to these rules are our protection. If we are rebellious, if we're disobedient, if we think we know better than our superiors, then we are easy prey for the devil. And this applies not just to the priests, but it applies to you as well. You might not like what your spouse is telling you to do or asking you to do. You might not like what your parents are asking you to do. You might not like your priest telling you this or that. You might not like what hear from this bishop or that bishop, at whatever low or high level he may be. But even so, if you're rebellious, if you're angry, if you are defiant, you are easy prey for the devil. So you have to keep praying and fasting and then giving alms. Giving alms for where you fall short in your fasting and praying. If you're a failure in your Lenten disciplines, then give alms, which doesn't mean giving to charity. You can't write off alms on your taxes. You can't keep track of what you give away in alms. And giving alms means giving to somebody that you deem unworthy to receive them, because you have been unworthy. God has given you all sorts of things that you've squandered, and you have to be willing to give alms to somebody who will squander them as you have. Now, with that in mind, that is the completion of today's sermon.